Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 4 of the Robot War. No, hold on, I'm going to need to do that again.
In our Alaskan homes, we weather the cold forever. Trying to ignite a spark with sticks and stones together. Never having much luck, we just seem to be stuck.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 5 of the Robot Wars review show. This is Heat E, and we're going to see the debut of Team Cold Fusion, and the turntable is backwards constantly, and everybody is too light. However, I'm not alone in this venture. I am joined by 1/3 of Warp Dimension Media. It's Matt.
Hey, good to be here.
Glad to have you on. So, we'll get started with, first of all, the cringeworthy introduction, which is the father of all wars, Jeremy Clarkson. That is one of the worst ones I've heard.
Definitely.
Everybody knows my favourite one is the one for Craig Charles in Series 2, where he says, "Please welcome the man who thought Mussolini was a type of lasagna."
Yeah, I remember that one. That one's hilarious.
Yeah, so my other note is just listening to Jeremy Clarkson drone on, can I kill him now?
I'm going to say, he seems to quite like the sound of oysters, and I know that if you don't cook those properly, they can be quite dangerous, so just give him some oysters.
So the first robot that's introduced is Warthog. So what have you got in your notes about Warthog?
I mean, I mentioned it a little bit, but this is the first time that I've kind of been watching this kind of original, the very first series, and I was very surprised about how light some of the robots are. I mean, Warthog, 24.4 kilograms, that's classed as middleweight. Now, in the later seasons which I've watched, that would be like a really lightweight one.
Yeah, because
I was quite interested to see that.
I think lightweights was like 27 kilos max.
Yeah.
But it's like I mentioned with Andrew back in Heat C, that I feel like some of these guys didn't get like a memo of what like the weight restrictions were. So they might have thought something like 30 kilos. And then they come up against something that's going to be shown up later in this episode that's 80 kilos.
Yeah.
So I don't understand why Warthog has an extra H in there. Is it a regional thing?
I don't know, unless it's... The only thing I could think of, unless it's like some sort of play on words, is like a wart that you'd have on something. I don't know. I mean, it does seem a little bit unnecessary. I assume it might be a reference to something.
Yeah, answers on a postcard.
Yeah.
But next up, this when it came out made me laugh my head off.
Yeah,
Psycho
I've never seen
Sprout.
it designed quite like that. Yeah.
So Psycho Sprout is a giant sphere that has a remote-controlled car in it. Now, how does that make up 24 kilos?
I mean, because considering that like the shell itself seems quite light and not particularly strong, so it must be one hell of a heavy like truck car inside of it to be able to make it that heavy. I will say I was quite interested when they show later on how they open it up and show how it works.
Yeah,
it was quite interesting to see the kind of a frame they'd made around it, so that if for whatever reason it did get like suddenly bumped, it wouldn't cause the truck to then turn upside down and not being able to run properly. I mean, I was imagining something a lot more kind of technological and some mechanism to get the wheels to roll or something. Again, completely forgetting the fact that this is early 2000s technology.
This is 1997.
1997 even. I wasn't sure when it started. So this came out like born. Yeah. So
I was. I think this episode dropped when I was 2 years old, when I just turned 2.
Yeah. I need to temper my expectations with the level of technological advancement within some of these robots.
Yep, so moving on, we have Body Hammer, the first entrant from Team Cold Fusion, who most of you will know as future entrants Pussycat.
Yeah.
So 78.9 kilos in weight, the heaviest one in the entire episode, which is... It's weird to say that.
Yeah, I mean, but it has a distinct advantage from. I mean, considering how heavy it is, being almost 4 times as heavy. The fact that it's still got, I think, the second highest, if not the closest to the highest speed at 9 miles an hour, is pretty impressive. And I think it would definitely it would have a lot of advantages against the other robots, certainly in terms of pushing power.
Yep. It also has the hammer, which, spoiler alert, does nothing.
Yeah.
We never actually see it work. Okay, so...
Which was slightly disappointing, because I would have liked to have seen how that would have... how effective that would have been up against some of the other robots.
Absolutely. So, next up we have... My friend here loves puns. Talk of the Devil.
Talk of the Devil, yeah. Funnily enough, this is probably my favourite in terms of... In terms of name, well, I mean, you give something a pun name and it will instantly jump up several places higher in my top 10 list or favourite list.
I thought you were going to say.
I quite like this one.
Before you said name, I thought you were going to say in terms of design.
Oh no, design. I mean, the design's interesting, but it also seems quite clumsy, and it's certainly very slow. I'll say, with the description of the weapons with a blade and the drill, I was quite intrigued by that, because I mean, the blades we've seen, the spinning blades we've seen quite a lot of different robots have them, but the drill on the other hand, I don't really seen any robots having a kind of a drill type weapon, because you would, I mean, unless it was some sort of spinning kind of spike to get that little extra bit of damage if they were kind of interlocked in combat. Wouldn't have thought that a drill would have been as effective as some of the other sort of weapons. So I was quite interested to see how that would work.
Yep. Somehow the second heaviest in the episode at 57.9 kilos. My description is, it looks like an unopened peanut shell trying to escape a log.
Yeah.
Oh. You still there, bud?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Alright, it cut out a second there, but anyway.
My internet's a bit shoddy sometimes.
Okay, next up, reality. Another pun.
Yeah.
Gotta love these puns.
Yeah. Did you choose me for this episode specifically, or was it pure coincidence?
It was coincidence. It was pure coincidence.
Yeah, this one I do like the design of this one, especially with some of the lore that they come up with a little bit later on, with it being alien technology that they've stumbled across. Again, 40 kilograms, pretty much is amongst the highest of the robots. They're quite impressive as well. The spikes, I'm interested to see how much damage they'll be able to do. I mean, so up on someone could do some pretty good damage getting through armor and into some of the inner workings of the machines as well.
Yep. Also, last up, we have another undersized robot. Full metal anorak. There's not really much to talk about other than just it's got cutting blade on the front that doesn't really do much, and then you've got your spikes and like a wedge design.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, it looks like Warthog shrank in the wash.
It does, yeah. And had a lot of its cut. Someone put in too much washing liquid, and it just took all the colour away as well.
Yeah. So we go to the gauntlet. So the first run-up of the gauntlet is Full Metal Anorak. So I've got on my notes here. At first they think about going for the ramp, but then he goes to the maze, and he does some very good driving getting through this.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, I'm surprised that they went for a maze, considering how fast they are at 12 miles an hour. I would have thought they would have gone for the straightforward, like the direct straight path. I mean, the reason why I could think they might not have done that is with the swing weight close to the end. That could have done some quite damage. But yeah, no, they did a really good job maneuvering through that maze. I think they made the most of the kind of wedge-like design, with the fact that it's a bit thinner at the front than it is at the back, so that when they did have problems getting around those corners, simply just being able to drive into it, it would push the back of a robot out a little bit and be able to make them get a better line on the next corner.
Yep. So they complete the course. First one up, first finished.
Hmm.
So next up we have Talk of the Devil. There's one thing I've noticed is when activate sounds, for some reason the turntable is backwards.
Yeah, I found that quite interesting because obviously it seems I'm not sure if it's like random or if they have a specific time that will call it out, but it certainly seemed that some of the robots had that problem where they had the instant disadvantage of not being having a straight dash out of the starting blocks.
However, Psycho Sprout, as we know, they don't have that problem because
No, they don't. No, they can go anyway.
What exactly is the front?
Exactly, yeah.
But yeah, back to Talk of the Devil though. It struggles, comes up backwards. It really doesn't get going, and it's incredibly slow.
It does seem a lot slower than the speed would like the speed stats said. I mean, they got a bit too close to Sergeant Bash to begin with, who managed to shove them onto the grates, which I assume something to do with the wheels probably would mean that they weren't quite able to get purchased to back themselves off of it. So yeah, unfortunately they didn't get off to a good start there at all.
Yeah, back in those days, the grill was effectively the pit. Because a lot of robots had like caster wheels on the bottom, so if it went over the grill, then you're basically stuck. I think there's been like a grill knockout at least 4 or 5 times, like up to this point. So, very bad run. It was 4.92 meters.
Yeah.
You'd think that would be the worst thing, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to
it. Or we won't, because we won't be able to go that far, apparently.
So Body Hammer takes the field next. Once again, the turntable comes out backwards.
Yeah.
However, this doesn't really bother them too much. They nearly get caught on the grill at the end, though.
Yeah, that was definitely a risky moment for them. I will say they did some very good navigation of the maze, similar to Full Metal. I quite liked the way they managed to bait the spikes to come out. They kind of took the edge of, or like the corner of the spike area. Spikes come up, but then he just managed to dodge around them and drive around the outside, which I thought was some very good driving on their behalf.
Yeah, I think one thing that would have been quite funny is in an alternate universe, he went over the spikes, got pushed onto his side, but the shape just allows him to roll to the end zone. Yeah,
that would have been pretty funny.
Yeah. So next up, we alluded to it. It's Warthog. You know what?
Where do you even start with these guys? Or do you just not start at all?
First things first, I will note one thing, but I'll let you take over the running for this. For this one. So, for the third time this episode, the turntable starts out backwards.
Yep, and it was all downhill from there.
You take over what kind of happened to them? Yeah,
so something that I first noticed about its design is the fact that it's quite long at being just over 1 meter long, and also the turning circle of that thing is ridiculous. They speed and maneuverability. Now, speed I can get because it did have a decent top speed. However, you can't define yourself as maneuverable when it takes you drive 2 meters just to do a full turn. So I was thinking, with a body shape like that, they're either going to go straight down the middle, or they're going to risk going against one of the house robots. So the fact that they decided to go for the maze, where the turns you've got to make, had they even made it to any of the turns, they would have had to have basically Austin Powers themselves around those corners. But of course, they didn't even get that far. Instantly just drive straight forward into the first wall of the maze, get one of their spikes wedged under there, and they can't even move anymore.
Yep, and one thing we've noted as well is an unlucky consequence of being stuck on the railing, but we can't really feel sorry for them.
No.
Because the first thing I noticed, as soon as Cease was called, one of the teammates, he was gone.
Yeah, he literally just stepped out back. It's like, you know what, I don't want to be on camera anymore.
And then Jeremy Clarkson tries to get something out of the new captain.
It's literally just they literally just say no comment, and it's like, oh, you don't seem very happy about that. That's because I'm not. They were so bitter, which I can kind of understand because obviously they managed to put this effort into a robot, and they were hoping to be able to get to some of the later rounds. But the fact they got knocked out so easily in the first trial, no less, was it's such a disappointment for them, I imagine. But they were way too bitter about that.
I will say, when it comes to salt and bitterness, wait until you get to Series 4.
Yeah.
Bolt from the Blue, or as it's now known as Salt from the Blue.
Yeah.
So, 3.92 meters, not fantastic. So, next up, Psycho Sprout. How does one describe this?
I mean, it's a very interesting design, and I think because they were the first in the lot to go through so far who didn't immediately go through a maze, which I thought was interesting because considering their shape, I would have thought for them to navigate the maze would actually be quite simple, just so they could keep driving around and they wouldn't have to correct themselves quite as much. But they went to go with the route with Bash, which I found quite. I was questioning the logic behind for them a little bit.
Yeah, because towards the end, Bash accidentally gives them a little bit of a push.
Yeah.
So they reach a safe distance, 9 meters, so they're good to go. So
did that one? Did they call cease on that one because it didn't? Because it had some connection issues. I seem to remember. Did they call it just because it wasn't able to move anymore?
I think it was mainly because the clock did run out. Because they don't show the whole thing, like the whole run. Like they sometimes condense it down to the highlights.
I must say, I quite liked Toby's sense of humor about the whole thing. The driver, I found him quite funny.
Yeah. So last up is Reality. So at least they're released from the turntable the right way around this time.
Yeah.
I think they might have realised halfway through the episode, they went, oh crap, they've all gone out backwards. Quick, let's fix this.
Yeah.
So it's slow but steady progress over the first ramp. It's very, very slow.
Yeah, I thought they might have been having power issues getting up that first part of the ramp because it did. I wasn't sure if they were kind of like trying, like if it was having problems with the motors or something, but it did seem to be going a lot slower than I expected to. I mean, those spikes on the front as well, considering how much those stick out and the distance between the wheels and the front of the robot itself, I was worried about them maybe getting stuck on the beginning of a ramp. And they might not have been able to get enough purchase on the ramp to actually drive up it and kind of end up with half their wheels off the floor. But I think they did a very good job of them. They drove at a slight angle, which meant that they could get the spikes out of the way, get their front wheels up onto a ramp, and then correct themselves to make the rest of the distance, which I thought was some very good driving.
Yeah, because they timed like the pendulum swing as well.
Yeah, that was done really, really well.
Yep. So the course is completed, and Warthog is out. So we've gone from 6, we're down to 5, and next we move on to the trials. And the trial for this episode it's probably one of my personal favourite trials they've ever done. It's the Labyrinth. So the rules of the game is it's just a giant steel maze with the house robots all patrolling around. There's a couple of dead ends and things like that. So it's whoever gets to the finish line last, or whenever the clock runs out, it's whoever covers the least distance is eliminated. So in terms of my notes here, the first thing I note is right at the start, Full Metal Anorak does take the lead, and Psycho Sprout and Reality kind of scuffle to get through one of the gates.
Yeah. No, that happens. That one happens really quite early on. I think I would have had Warthog made it through to this round. If I think they would have probably lost here from the same sort of problems that they did have them. Reality actually had a pretty good start with Body Hammer as well. The Body Hammer being just behind them, but I think Reality at one point, if I'm remembering things correctly, I'm just scrolling through the episode right now. I think they made a bit of a wrong turn. So Reality's out in front. They end up dodging out of the way of Sergeant Bash, who uses his flamethrower, and then in the process manages to let Body Hammer through.
Yeah, Body Hammer also gets a clear shot to go right down the centre, but a bit of a bad turn by Body Hammer cost them some time.
manages to drive into a wall a little bit there. Yeah,
And then Talker the Devil gets stuck in a bit of a standoff with Sergeant Bash.
yeah,
And then
yeah.
Full
Literally
Metal
just blocking the way.
what I love here, Full Metal Anorak whips round, bashes
Yeah,
into Sergeant Bash, which
yeah.
scares Sergeant Bash enough that
Dash off,
he backs
speeds
off.
through. Yeah,
And then he just kind of whips round Sergeant Bash.
yeah. And then all whilst this is going on, the camera suddenly cuts back to the starting line where where Psycho Sprout is still just there, not having moved whatsoever at all.
It's gone backwards. I think they said it
Yeah.
ended up going into negative distance.
Oh right.
Yeah. So Full Metal Anorak does some good driving as well, gets to the end zone, so they're marked
Yeah.
safe.
Yeah.
However, not content to wait out the clock, as the team captain says, he got a bit bored. He
Yeah.
charges back. He charges back to attack Matilda and tries to help Reality get to the end.
Yeah.
Reality is actually inches away from the end zone when Cease is called as well.
Yeah. Yeah. They got really, really close, but at the kind of angle that she was at, there was literally no way for them to get through until Matilda ends up going back into the end zone to pick on Full Metal a little bit, which allows Reality to drive around the last corner, and they miss it by like a couple of meters, if that. They come really close. I think. Let's see.
I think.
Yeah, I think.
I think it went Full Metal Anorak came first, Reality second, Body Hammer third, and then Talk
Yeah.
the Devil fourth.
Yeah, so Body Hammer was on the opposite side of the course, I think.
I think
so
they were
pretty
taking the route that Full Metal Anorak did. I think.
yeah. So they were about even, maybe a little bit behind Reality from here, and then Talk of the Devil. It looks quite close to Reality, but they're still 1, 2, like 3 turns away from it. So yeah, they did fall behind quite a bit there. So
Yeah.
they were kind of lucky that that Psycho Sprout did have its drive issues.
I was thinking if Psycho Sprout didn't have its radio interference, it could go fast enough. Imagine if
Yeah.
it could somehow smack into the sidebars and just ride across the top.
Yeah. I mean, I reckon what they could have done is ramped off one of the more wedge-shaped robots and ended up like skipping whole sections of it. That would have been quite interesting to see.
Yeah, so I think it's mentioned in the end of series kind of award ceremony, but I'll mention it here as well. At least Psycho Sprout doesn't go home empty-handed. They actually win the award for the most original entry.
That doesn't surprise me. That is a very, very, very interesting design, and I would have liked to have seen them in an actual fight, because they don't have any weapons, but at the same time, a robot bat shape, it would be quite difficult to get a hold of with any kind of traditional weapons. If you had like a grabber or something,
I feel
that
like
would
the
be
problem
quite
with it is
difficult.
you can't do anything to it, but it can't do anything to
Yeah.
you.
Yeah,
So-
I mean, it would certainly have its pros in the fact that it wouldn't be able to get stuck on the grates because it is a ball, and it wouldn't get any wheels caught through the gaps. I don't think it would have too many issues with the side ropes, so they probably wouldn't have gotten stuck on there. Although it might have been quite easy for another robot to push them out of bounds.
Also,
But yeah,
also they're technically the only robot that could kind of say that they are immune to the grill.
Yeah, that as well. Yeah, as long as they didn't stay on it too long and the heat didn't get to the robot on the inside. I reckon they could have got some decent protection depending on the specific thickness of the material they were using as the actual ball. But yeah, I reckon they probably would have had to. I don't even know what their tactics in a fight would have been, because they don't
Just
have any
survive.
offensive options. Yeah, just
But,
wait out the timer and hope that the opponent makes a mistake.
Yeah, so the trial, however, wasn't without its sacrifices. So the first thing that's noted is Full Metal Anorak apparently had smoke coming out, and the motor might have blown when attacking Matilda.
Yeah.
And,
Which kind of was warranted because they've got a little bit cocky there.
And not only that, Reality also had the problem as well with Matilda in that during the scuffle, it snapped one of the 6 wheels off.
Yeah.
What's kind of cut out of this is if you have the first Great War video that I had as well, because it has extra bits into it, so you see the full interview. So it mentions that like they were trying to get round, and they thought they'd try and take on Matilda, but it didn't work. But they did say it is possible that they can run on 4 wheels instead of 6.
Yeah, I thought that might have been a thing because I think they've done other robots have done that in the past where they've had an issue with the drive system, and rather than taking too much time to replace or fix some of the missing wheels, they realize they can just run on a few less wheels and put that time into fixing other parts of the robot. So it is a very kind of it's a high risk, high reward kind of play if you have a problem like that, but it can come in useful sometimes.
Yep. So now, after the trials, we move on to the head-to-heads. And here we are with the head-to-heads. The first fight, Body Hammer versus Talk of the Devil.
Hmm.
So...
I must say, I quite like one of the fixes that Talk of the Devil did because in between the matches, they get some time to do any repairs they need to, and I think they sustained some damage from Sergeant Bash earlier on.
yeah,
To the
during
point where I think,
the gauntlet, they put like
yeah,
holes in it.
yeah. So I think one of the presenters points that out. The fact that they covered it up with a plaster, I thought was quite funny.
That makes me wonder, because I've never seen Bash's like kind of original claw go through anything. So what was that thing made out of?
Hmm.
That thing must have been. That thing was made out of Weetabix.
Probably.
However, also Body Hammer, to note for this fight as well, has taken the hammer off and they've put a spike on the front.
Yeah. Now I found that interesting because they didn't even call it a spike. They called it a disruptor. Now I was thinking, what do they mean? Oh, it's just a spike. Okay. I mean, it's an interesting choice because with how low I think Body Hammer is, I mean, I guess they could have tried to have gone for some of the wheels inside Talk of the Devil, but at the same time, Talk doesn't. Its armor, I'm not sure if it's just because of the way it's kind of painted or the aesthetic of it. It doesn't look massively strong. So I would have thought the hammer probably would have been a better use for them there.
Yeah, but however, I don't think they really needed it because Body
No.
Hammer's superior speed, it rams Talk of the Devil into the sidebars and they get stuck
Yeah.
there, and the house robots come in. And my favourite note here is, shockingly, Shunt's axe in this series finally done some visible damage.
Yeah, there was some massive damage from there.
Because in this series, so far, in every episode, I have ragged on Shunt because his axe in this series is so bad. Like, I even said in the first episode, I could probably have Shunt hit you with his Series 1 axe, and there's a 99% chance you'll be completely fine.
Yeah, I must say, within that fight, there was some really good maneuverability from Body Hammer. Good kind of control, attacking from the side, keeping out of the way of that front spike and then the blade at the back. Which, I mean, they sort of did. They kind of caught it at a bit of an angle, so they were lucky that the shape of the actual rope was able to kind of deflect most of the damage from Torque.
Yeah.
And with that spinner, I was very interested to see how much damage that could have done, but I think their problem was that they couldn't. I think they might have got it up to decent speeds, but after those first few hits, it just kind of shut down, and it didn't seem to be spinning anywhere near as quickly as it did. And as soon as they got shoved towards the side, pin them in a little bit, I think it was all downhill for them there.
Yeah, it was all over but the shouting, really. But one funny thing I've got to note is Deb Metal actually gets stuck on the sidebars at the end.
Yeah. I'd noticed that Body Hammer, like after that little bit of a fight, it seemed to go after Dead Metal for a second, which I thought was very risky.
It's one of the more active moments that Deb Metal actually has so far in this series, because other than this fight, he's very much been a passenger house robot than actually active. He's been in a couple of events, but he's not really done anything besides goalkeeper in the football trial.
Yeah, which makes sense considering the claws that it's got on the front. It would make for a pretty good goalkeeper.
Yeah. So that's them sorted. So next up is Reality versus Full Metal Anorak. I don't really have many notes on this one.
Yeah, I found it difficult for that as well. I mean, I was worried about the blade that is on the front of Full Metal. If there was a robot with some exposed wheels, that could have done some really good damage. But obviously the thing with Reality is that they've got a decently low ground clearance to the point where I don't think that Full Metal's blade would have been able to quite fit underneath there. And even if it had, the wheels were located like close enough to the center that I don't even think it would have reached.
Yeah, I think as well with that, I think the spikes as well is something that even on a head-on charge would have prevented Full Metal Anorak from even getting close to the tires if they could even get underneath.
Yeah, definitely.
So
it certainly seems to be like quite an even fight, I must say.
Yeah, mostly a kind of a cat and mouse affair, but at one point Bash becomes a law unto himself.
Yeah.
And just starts attacking both of them.
Yeah, I think he probably just got bored or something.
Yeah. I think my favourite bit of this was the KO, because it looked like you could say it was bad driving from Full Metal Anorak, but I think this was actually a good attack by Reality in that they charge at each other, they hit, but the spikes from Reality hits Full Metal Anorak, bounces them off and causes them to go onto the grill.
Yeah, those are some pretty big dents caused by those front spikes. I thought there might have been a problem with Full Metal steering as well, because it certainly seems to have a problem getting itself in line for a decent attack. So I wasn't sure if they were having some sort of drive problems or something. But I mean, even if that hadn't been a knockout, I probably would have thought Reality would have been given the win on judges' decision, just because simply for the fact they were a lot more aggressive than Full Metal was. Full Metal was doing a lot of strategic retreat. I can't even speak today.
It's alright, neither can I. But the one thing I note is that when it looks like Full Metal Anorak has to take the entire arena just to kind of turn around.
Yeah.
So
it's like their drive system had been replaced with Warthogs or something, with the amount of time they had to take to turn around.
I don't think it would have been replaced by Warthogs, because at least that's better.
Yeah, no, that was I don't even know what was the problem there.
Yeah, so my mum walked in for a second, but no worries. But as I was saying, we're now on to the heat final. So this is a lesser talked about one, but and you even noted as well, this could be one of the more screwy results of Robot Wars. So, going into this fight, Bodyhammer once again using the Disruptor, and Reality is still 4-wheel drive. We don't even know if they actually went with 4 or even if they went with just 5. So, from the start of the fight, Bodyhammer kind of gets almost a slow start. It's like how when you play Mario Kart and if you hold down like the acceleration button for too long, you kind of spin out. It's felt a bit like that, and it took them a while to get up to speed. Yeah. And they charged in, they got behind Dead Metal and then got out of Dead Metal's way, but Dead Metal didn't even react at all.
No, it's like he wasn't even turned on or something.
Yeah, it felt like Dead Metal had broken down here. Bodyhammer then bashes into Matilda, who for some reason is way out of the CPZ again.
Yeah.
As I mentioned, in Series 1, the House Robots have a reputation for being dicks for the sake of being dicks.
Yeah. I mean, they're basically acting like Refbot would, out in the middle, kind of watching everything which is going on. But there's a point where, I mean, here, Matilda is about halfway in between the bottom left and the bottom right CPZ, and now both Reality and Bodyhammer are in the CPZ together, and Matilda's having to come sprinting back to try and get into position.
Yeah, one thing as well, Bodyhammer does get a good slam onto that pyramid in the corner on Reality.
They do, yeah. And then with that quick escape, and then Matilda coming in and pinning Reality against the wall, getting some good damage in there, I reckon.
Yeah, because you actually see the bodywork does lift up, because the one thing that Jonathan Pierce was speculating throughout this episode was that armour going to hold up? And it turns out not very well.
No, I mean, it done some decent work in the previous fights, but yeah, no, certainly that. I think the slam that Bodyhammer delivered to it against the corner and then paired that up with Matilda a little while later, I think probably dislodged some part of some of the bits attaching the armor to the main body of the robot.
Yep. So one thing I noticed as well, Bodyhammer during all this accidentally drives onto the grill.
Yeah, it's like he's trying to escape from Matilda and Bash whilst Reality's over with Dead Metal.
However, the problem here is Reality then pushes them further onto the grill, so they cannot get off.
Yeah.
Cease is not called.
Yeah, and for a good while there as well.
And not just
It's
that.
still driving around.
And not just that, Shunt tries to. It seems like it actively tries to free Body Hammer, and you can see
Yeah.
Reality charging into Shunt to stop them from doing it.
Yeah, I'm just replaying that moment now. Yeah, he's not. It's not even close to anywhere in their CPZ. It definitely seems like Shunt. It's one of those interesting things where it's happened in later seasons as well, where we were talking about before this episode started. But it does seem really fishy, this sort of behavior, and because honestly, Body Hammer should have lost right there because they were on there. I mean, if it had only been a little while they'd been stuck, then fair enough. If they managed to work themselves free, but the fact that one of the house robots directly went out of their way to free them, I think was a little bit unfair.
And not just that, what was quite funny, at least, is when Body Hammer is freed and back in the fight, Shunt ends up getting stuck on the grill himself.
Yeah, which you'd think is odd considering the size of the wheels either side. You'd think that they'd be fine.
I believe apparently they had some. They also had casters on the bottom of Shunt earlier on in this series.
Just to guide it and stuff. Yeah,
Yeah,
that would make sense.
Meanwhile, it seems like Reality gets kind of stuck towards the sidebars, but then Bash again comes out for no real discernible reason and almost actively tries to prop them on the ropes.
Yeah, because Body Hammer, it's like you don't even really see it properly because Body Hammer's now going down to the bottom left CPZ. The spikes are coming out. It gets stuck on those a little bit. It kind of drives away from Matilda. You see Bash coming from across the arena, gives him a lick of flame with his flamethrower, and definitely does, because you don't even really see that initial bit of Reality driving up on the side there. I'm not sure if it was poor driving on their part or something else, but they definitely seem to be like slightly stuck, but in a way that they could potentially free themselves. But yeah, Sergeant Bash definitely seems to come along because they've only got like maybe a quarter to a third of their body stuck on the sidebars right now. But when Sergeant Bash definitely seems to come in and give them that extra little shove to get them stuck, and then Body Hammer comes in and finishes up the job, fully getting them stuck on the side there.
Yeah, so that's basically how the episode wraps up. One can say Reality was definitely screwed in this episode.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to take anything away from Body Hammer. It, far and away, I think was the best robot in the episode.
Yeah.
But at the same time, that must sting for the Reality team.
Yeah, it was a very close fight if that hadn't happened.
Yeah, because I think this is because we had an instance like this in Heat C where within about 20 seconds, Robot the Bruce shoved Wedgehog onto the grill, and the fight was basically declared over at that point because they couldn't move and the house robots came in for the kill. That didn't happen here. Unless there's like some sort of subjective rule that maybe they were running under time, so they freed Body Hammer to help make up for time on the episode, or
maybe, yeah.
There's no real explanation as to why.
But at the same time, though, they probably wouldn't know that they were under... Unless... It depends how much stuff they cut out, because, I mean, I suppose when it comes to the edit and post and actually putting it onto TV, they probably would have been able to pad it out with other things, so they might not have necessarily known how much time they needed to turn it into a full episode. But yeah, it definitely seemed like some quite fishy business going on there.
Yeah. It's something that I always noticed as a child, and then rewatching again as an adult, it seems even more weirder. But so now we move into the wrap-up stage. So when we're wrapping this up, what would you say was the best and worst robots of this episode?
I mean, I definitely give worst to Warthog, simply because, I mean, it's an interesting design. The wedge shape has been proved, it's quite a popular design, certainly within the later series. You've got a lot of stuff that you can put on there, be it flippers or discs. I know that one of my favourite robots from Series 1 was Roadblock, which has that same wedge design, and it has a lot of potential, but with that turning circle, they were certainly at a disadvantage right from the start, even even without the initial problem with being stuck in the maze, and also just the attitude of the Roboteers themselves certainly left a lot to be desired. Wasn't very sportsmanship-like at all.
Absolutely. I think far and away, Body Hammer is definitely the best robot of this episode.
Yeah.
Though I feel like you can make an honourable mention for Full Metal Anorak, because
Yeah.
until the head-to-head, it's probably performing the best.
Yeah, definitely. I reckon if they'd had a bit more kind of similar weight to them, so it was a little bit more balanced in that regard. I mean, they got pretty good speed. The weapon on the front that could have done some pretty decent damage to some of the other robots. It does have a very cool design. What I must say is, when I first saw the image of it in the stat screen, I didn't originally realize that it's actually from a side point of view. And I only noticed it when we were looking through the specs in the beginning of this episode. But I thought that it was pointing to the bottom left of the screen, and that was the front there. And then looking at it closely and thinking, oh, hang on a second, that's actually not right at all.
All right, so best and worst gauntlet run. Worst gauntlet run easily, obviously, Warthog.
Yeah.
Best gauntlet run, I'm gonna say probably Body Hammer.
I think Body Hammer was good. I'd probably would have said Full Metal myself. They managed to make a good use of their wedge shape to get around the corners, which they might have had some issues with, and the speed over the spikes at the end was very impressive as well.
Yeah. With the trial, we can't really discuss because it isn't individually that they do them; they do them all together. So.
Yeah,
but we all know
a little bit difficult to focus on. Yeah.
Full Metal Anorak obviously wins that one anyway.
Yeah.
So, best fight out of all three matches?
Ooh. That's a difficult one.
I mean, you've got the drama and controversy in Reality versus Body Hammer.
Yeah.
I'm probably going to go Body Hammer versus Talk of the Devil because it's more a case of the Heat final was more the house robots did most of the damage and most of the controlling of the fight. They dictated the pace of the match. But at least with this one, Body Hammer does it all under its own merit.
Yeah, I'd say so. I think it was quite... Yeah, I definitely see the points of that one. I might have said... trying to think, because one of them was very, very even.
Reality Full Metal Anorak.
Reality and Full Metal Anorak. That one was quite even. If it hadn't been so much of Full Metal retreating, I probably would have said that one. But yeah, no, I think definitely Body Hammer and Torque. They had some good showcasing of driving there and some really good aggression from Body Hammer. So yeah, I'd probably agree with you on that one.
Yep. Also, something I think I've noted in a way, I'm trying to remember correctly from this episode, is I think, correct me if I'm wrong, people in the comments, that Body Hammer is the only robot in this episode that ever actually comes back for a future series. Because it's just because Body Hammer comes back, they come back for Series 2, and then obviously Series 3 onwards we have Pussycat that we all know and love today. But I don't think the others ever actually come back.
No.
Obviously, thank God Warthog didn't come back with that.
Yeah.
I think in the end of year awards, the worst gauntlet run has to... Warthog is a shoo-in for that.
Yeah. I mean, they didn't even make it really to the entrance of the maze properly.
They didn't even really get off the starting brick.
Yeah. I'm wondering, like... I've completely lost. Well, my brain's gone completely dead. I've forgotten what I was about to say.
Sorry, no worries. But it was the stuff about the robots not coming back. I think it was.
Yeah, no, that was it. I feel like I'm not sure if it's simply because it's quite a popular design in later series, but there was certainly something about Full Metal Anorak which did look familiar. I'm probably just imagining things. They might not have come back, but I could have seen there were some robots which looked similar. So I was wondering if they might have been later versions of that robot. But might be completely wrong.
Yeah, I'll double check that on the Robot Wars wiki probably. But and finally, the final question we'll ask is: one robot from that didn't make the Heat final would you have liked to have seen given a second chance?
Part of me wants to say Psycho Sprout, just because I really want to see how that would work in fights. Just for the kind of pure comedic purpose. But I'd probably have to go with Full Metal Animac, just because I quite like its design. It's got some interesting weapons on the front, and I reckon with the speed that it has, I reckon it would have had potential to go quite far.
Absolutely. Like, I would have loved to have seen that in the grand final. That would have been quite
definitely.
funny. But yep, that's all the time we've got for this one. So join us next time in Heat F, where we finally meet a robot that is made up entirely of acronyms. We play Hungry Hungry Hippos, and we see the grand final to crown the first series Robot Wars champion. From myself and Matt, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.